What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Dylan Talks Tone. Welcome to the Just Gonna Say It podcast. I hope everybody's having a good afternoon this afternoon. It's Tuesday, so we're going to do our live podcast every week, just like we normally do. And so here we are. Before we get going, this is always ad-free, and we'll turn the ads on afterwards. So there is that. So you can support the channel any way you like, subscribe, super chat, all that kind of stuff. Keeps us going ad-free. I appreciate that very much, as well as check out DylanTalksTone.com, since we don't really have sponsors for this stuff. DylanTalksTone.com is where you're going to get all your cool pickups. And every Saturday at 9 a.m., we're doing kind of custom and limited drops. So if you'll see the last couple weeks, if you go to the front page there in the pickup vault, you'll see some pretty neat stuff. Uncommon stuff. If you want to be a little more unique, if you want to be a little bit, not the same as others, which is what we're going to talk about today. There's a bunch of cool stuff over there as well. So that's that. I guess that's all the plug-in stuff today. I don't really have a whole lot today. I was just thinking about, as we're doing this stuff, I'm playing around with all these various color combination stuff. So I guess I want to get y'all's thoughts on this. That's the other thing too. Somebody mentioned the replay. We will upload this to all the podcast platforms, so you can listen to it in audio if you want. So I've been thinking a bunch about it because I've been doing all this playing around with various color combinations and etc. It's really fun, right? And I just feel like it's sort of like classic rock for me at this point. I'm in a mood to be a little more adventurous. I'm in the mood to just try stuff and explore materials and shapes and whatever, and just see what happens. That's kind of where I'm at. I mentioned classic rock because that's kind of the way I feel about classic rock is, okay, I've heard those songs a billion times. What else is there, And just kind of getting in an exploratory mood with all of that. It's not like I don't like it. It's not like I don't like a traditional Stratocaster or a Telecaster or a Les Paul or whatever. But I'm just kind of in the mindset of like, I wonder what else can be done. And even if I can't do it, kind of looking for what's out there. This is something I was just thinking about this morning as I'm putting together this weekend's stuff that we're going to release on Saturday. And they're, it's not traditional. This is not traditional stuff. We're not doing, everybody's like, can you do perloid? No, you can buy perloid everywhere. I'm not going to make perloid, at least not in the same way. We do have some perloid stuff on the website right now, but it's not normal. I'm like, no, use some freaking imagination for once, really think about some stuff. Oh, hang on. We got a super chat that I missed. Sorry, sir. Super chat from Dastardly Dave. Ad free is for me. Thank you so much. Whoops, that's not the button I meant to hit, actually, the second time, but I guess you get two buttons. I don't know. I'm just kind of playing around with new ideas, I'm just kind of playing around with new ideas, new colors, new materials. I'd like to actually build. Somebody gave me an idea last night of making some hollow body guitars out of alternative materials because we could cut the parts on a laser, which would be really, really interesting. So that might be something. I would love to try it. How about silver anodized pick guards? So the problem is that you gotta find somebody to cut all that stuff. The thing about metal, I can't cut metal. So you would actually, the way you would do that is you would send aluminum sheets to a water jet place, and a water jet place would cut the aluminum, and then you would come over here, and then we would etch it after it was anodized. The thing is that I'm not saying that you wouldn't be willing to pay the money, but anodized aluminum in that size at any kind of volume is not cheap. Metal is expensive. And so if we're going to do, if I had to buy sheets and then water jet it, anodize it, and then etch it, you're looking at a $150 pick guard. And so a lot of people don't want to spend that. There's a reasonable, like what the market will bear for particular stuff. I mean, you could go really custom with stuff and you could try to justify some of the cost, but when it comes to what the market will bear, people are just too cheap, even though the value is there. It really is. When you start to look at what a piece of aluminum costs and the work that goes into it, man, my insurance company really wants me to know that my insurance is about to get paid. Gotten like 3 text messages about it in the last 2 minutes. Decorative pickup rings. So this is something that I'm actually working on this week. We're working on, and actually, Scott, you don't know this, but you mentioned Scott Harrington is in the comments, and him and I were discussing earlier, like a purple port acrylic topped enduro. So that's something that I'm working on, and those are going to come out Saturday. And he was asking me if they fit in a regular humbucker ring. And I'm like, you know what? We should cut matching humbucker rings. That would be really cool. And he would just cut them out of the same stuff. It'd be thin. They'd be thin. So it would be for a flat guitar, because it wouldn't be the thick, like a Gibson style with the arch in it that you can put on a piece of. So what you may not know is if you have a flat pickup ring that's flat on the bottom, what you can do is you can take your guitar and you can put you put blue masking tape over the guitar, and then you put a piece of adhesive sandpaper on it, and then you can run that flat pickup ring on that guitar and it'll match the contour. With acrylic, you can't do that because it's only 1/8 of an inch thick. So it would basically be the same thickness and dimensions as a normal metal one, but it would be an acrylic and it would match. That would be really, really cool, actually. Yeah. Super cool. Tim Sway uses Send, I believe, for cut metal in the USA. Yeah, I could do all that stuff. I don't care. I'm just gonna buy a laser. That's where we're going. We're going that direction. I'm hoping in the next couple of months to have a fiber laser and we can cut metal. I'm tired of boring guitars too. Way too many Strats, Les Pauls. I love American and Japanese lutherie from the 80s. So here's the thing. What's funny about it is you can't just ditch tradition because the guitar has to be the right shape, right? Like some of the stuff that I posted in that thumbnail are kind of wacky, but really when it comes down to it, they are basically guitar shaped. The funny thing is, and what made me think about this was I posted the video yesterday about the pick guard that's on the telly that is, it's like how to make a unique telly, and we're doing some really neat stuff with the pickups and the plastics on it and stuff. And people are in the comments going like, I would just rather have it be chrome. Like, come on, man. Like, really? I mean, okay, it's fine. You can like whatever you want, but I'm personally sort of just getting tired of it. What I'm getting at is on any kind of scale or any kind of business sense dictates that you cannot jump to some crazy thing and have it be a hit, because people won't even like, it's black, white, mint, green, or cream. That's it. Right? So there has to be some sort of in between. And I really hope that over the next few years, because of necessity, that as guitar materials change, that people will become more adventurous. I think it's fairly well known in at least reasonable guitar culture now. I'm going to say reasonable guitar culture for a reason, that you can kind of just build a guitar out of anything you want. It doesn't matter really. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying it doesn't matter. You can build a guitar and it'll sound good, right? Out of pretty much anything. And so I think as we get away from alder, swamp ash, mahogany, and we're into a bunch of other woods that are more sustainable, more easier to get. A lot of the stuff, I was talking to a guy yesterday. I'm actually having a new front door put in my house. My entryway door is rotted out, actually. And so I'm having a walnut door put in. And we were talking about why he doesn't use mahogany. And he was telling me that the mahogany that you buy most places is crap, because it's so diluted. Basically, there's 250 different subspecies of mahogany or whatever. And you're not really getting mahogany half the time, because for a couple of reasons. One, because it's too expensive to ship real mahogany, like Honduran mahogany, for example, farther. It's also there's not as much of it, etc. So the necessity, because of logistics, because of availability, and because of trying to build to a price, means that you're going to find a bunch of different alternative materials. You're going to just build guitars out of whatever, and they're going to be fine. They're totally going to be fine. You paint, I would say, in most cases, 99% of all guitars. So you could take a good guitar, give it to Texas Toast could do this. PRS could do this. Okay, these are two companies that I can think of. That their workmanship on the guitar is good enough, and their setups are good enough, and all the rest of the work is good enough that you could have a poplar guitar, a NATO guitar, some wacky other kind of something, limba, whatever, doesn't matter, who cares? But if they weigh about the same, if it was painted, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Largely. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about tone here. I'm talking about the functionality of the guitar, how it feels, how it weighs, like the usability. We're talking about like the drivability, right? We're not talking about tone. Get tone out of your head. We're talking about the drivability of the guitar, right? Like it's good. Like it's a really good guitar, and it could be made out of anything. If the builder is good. Now, if the builder's not good, then it doesn't matter. But if the builder's good, he can make any guitar out of anything, and it doesn't matter. It'll be good. Now, if you put it next to this other guitar made of this other thing and it doesn't sound vintage, whatever, I don't care. The Luddites can freaking argue about that till the cows come home. But you can make a good guitar out of just about anything, as long as the screws don't pull out, which they won't as much as people say they will, because they don't, because the physics aren't there. Paolina is a wood that I can think of where you might want to put some hardwood inserts into it. But other than that, most everything you can pretty much build a guitar out of, unless it's cork or something. Let's see. Draw for real. Oh, you know what? Hang on. Let me turn my volume down here in case I accidentally, make noise here, but I am going to come over here real quick and ban someone, because pardon my French, but I am tired of his shit. if your purpose with every one of your comments is to make some sort of negative contribution to the community, you are not part of the community. The end. And it is not because I want to create some sort of echo chamber where everybody agrees with me. That's not what it's about. You can say whatever you want, and I will value your opinion. But if you're going to just be a troll to be a troll, you're gone. I don't have time for it. Yeah, I don't have time for it. Be desirable. But there are guitars out there, quite a few, that are fine guitars, but I don't want to own them necessarily. So just because something can be made to be functional doesn't mean it will necessarily, be desirable. So I agree with you. However, and again, you can like whatever you want. You're right. Like, it doesn't matter. But that's what I'm saying, is it doesn't matter. If you want to be, a super traditionalist and be into the big three woods that everybody always uses, that's totally fine. I totally get it. And the big five shapes, whatever, like, ES, SG, Les Paul, Tele, Strat, Jazzmaster, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, whatever the big 5 or 6 shapes are. If that's all you want to do, that's totally fine. I love it. I think it's great. And because I do. I mean, I have all those shapes. I don't have all of them, but I have a lot of them, and I'm glad that I have them. And I purposely collected them so that I would have those as references, because they are historical, right? Like, that's what started everything. Those major shapes. We have a super chat from Van Shank Guitars. Thank you so much. Dave made me do it. Ad free. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that very much. Yeah. I think that's great. Man, why is this Joker still here? Hang on. Yeah, there we go. I thought I ditched this dude and he was still here, so. All right, anyway. Yeah, so what I think is cool is definitely just boring is in the eye of the beholder. A guitar that excites one of us will certainly cause another to yawn. For example, I love all Cherry Burst Les Pauls. I'm sure that most of y'all are sick of them. Yeah, so exactly, I agree, and that's fine. So I guess what I would be encouraging of other folks, like Cherry Les Paul guy, like Rob, is have that, definitely have that, and then look at other stuff too. Look at other stuff and see what's out there and try it. Just try it. And not just materials either. I think one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to start kind of looking at styles of guitars that aren't really me either. I'm kind of interested in, like, I'd really like to get a Strandberg. I don't know. This whole thing is just really interesting to me, as far as the idea that if you're not careful, you will always just fall back to the same old thing, right? And I just don't want to do that. And for me personally, because I do this for a living, because I make parts, because I build guitar parts, I'm trying to figure out a way to keep imagination and enjoy it without feeling like a robot. Like, we could just make the same Strat pickups and the same humbuckers and the same everything every day, and it would be fine, and I would make a living, and it's great. I love it. I'm totally grateful to do it. But there is that creative part of your brain, and there's like that adventurous part of my brain anyway, that is like, what else is out there? How can we make this more exciting? What can we do? But the problem is, it's not a problem. It's just the reality, I guess, is no matter how adventurous I get, it doesn't matter if nobody buys it. So, and I'm not saying this so that you'll buy my stuff. I'm saying this in general. I think it's like a mentality in guitar land, that sometimes we're afraid of or not willing to, well, that doesn't look right on that guitar. Well, why not? It's cool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You don't think it's cool. Maybe you don't. That's totally fine. But I don't know. I've just been thinking about the adventure of it all. If carbon fiber could make a great guitar, then what is the debate really about? There isn't a debate. Absolutely not. There isn't a debate. That's the thing. I mean, you can make a guitar out of anything. Exactly. There is no debate. In my opinion, there is no debate. Because no matter what you think about what a guitar should be made of, the fact is that you can make a guitar out of just about anything, and it will work, and it will sound good, and it will weigh what you want it to weigh, and like, not hickory, you know what I mean? Like ironwood. There are certain things that might be a little outside the box, right? Would make it tough. But just about anything that most folks, okay, so let's say this. Let me say this. So let's say we want a guitar to be between 6 and 7 pounds, and we want it has to be this shape because it's got to like sort of sit on your lap or like work right on a strap, unless you're Michelangelo Badio and you've got that thing with a kickstand or whatever, but for most of us, you want like a thing that is kind of guitar shaped so that it sort of like hangs right on the strap and it sort of bounces and it doesn't annoy you. And of course, it's got to be the right scale length and functionally it all has to work, right? So that's all aside. Okay, so we want it to be what? 7 pounds, something like that. You don't want it to be 13 like a 70s Les Paul. It doesn't necessarily have to be 6 pounds or 5.5 pounds, like something really, really light. So maybe it's got to be, I don't know. Yeah, 7 pounds. We'll call it 7 pounds. And, it's got to be about this thick to be comfortable. And it's got to be about this big. And it's, beyond that, it doesn't matter. Beyond that, it doesn't matter. And I would say that you could, by tuning a bunch of things, you could make it sound however you wanted it to sound. So let's say you had a piece of wood. So this is something that I know people are concerned about. Let's say you have a piece of wood that's really, really heavy, but you get it down to about 7 pounds, and it's just not very totally resonant, bro. Like it's just kind of dead. Well, can we do something custom with it? Can we carve some hollow spots in it in the right places to make it feel right? Like, you know what I mean? Like when they come out with a new car, I was just watching a documentary the other day on the Lexus LFA, which is that like $500,000 Lexus that they didn't even sell all of them. But Yamaha made the engine, and Yamaha took the car to their music division and put it in a sound booth and like tuned it so that it sounded correct. And they played with materials and they played with diameters of exhaust pipes and they played with header lengths and all this kind of stuff to make make the car sound how they wanted it to sound. The bottom line is a guitar is exactly the same way. You can make a guitar sound however you want it to sound. There is no prescription there's no like definite prescription for guitar tone. So if you allow yourself to think freely enough, then you can take a blank sheet of paper and you can still get there. Now, the sheet of paper can't always be totally blank because of the aforementioned things, the form and function, and right, like a shoe still needs to fit on your foot, right? So it can't be, I guess it could be a ski. You know what I'm talking about. It's got to be sort of shaped like a guitar. It's got to weigh something that is bearable, and it's got to function. So it's not a complete blank sheet of paper, but when it comes to materials, when it comes to dimensions, when it comes to whatever, if you allow yourself, you can make stuff out of just about anything. And it will be good. It will be good. The notion that it has to be made out of a certain material or that, anything like that, and that a material that you might not think is right cannot be made to be right. So through various, messing around with, I don't know, chambering and thicknesses and wall thickness and all that kind of stuff. You could tune just about anything to feel the way you want it to feel, and then sound the way you want it to sound, and come up with something in between that works. But you have to think that way. You can't just be like, well, that'll never work because it's not alder, swamp ash, or mahogany. You know what I mean? Which I think is I guess what I'm getting at. Let's see. Ooh, Kramer Voyager. Crayola pencil guitar. So some of that stuff, I've looked at some of that art stuff. I know a guy from a pickup company, Nick. He made one out of Legos, which is pretty neat. Some of it's weird and like doesn't really make sense. I think I'll give you a material that I haven't seen up until this point, that I have not seen executed effect to my liking. I know a lot of people like them because they sell them and they're really expensive and they're really cool. And they are cool. It's just not to my liking, is aluminum. I have not seen an aluminum solid body guitar or something that acts as a solid body guitar, because they're normally not solid. They're usually got some chambers in them and stuff. So I haven't seen one of those that is to my liking, that I like enough, but I'm sure somebody will do it. And I've not played all of them. You know, there's a couple of brands that I have not played yet that I'd be interested in playing, because it is a material that, you know, that I haven't played yet. Yeah. So aluminum is probably the thing that I would be interested to explore. Acrylic, you know, there's been all kinds of acrylic guitars. They're really heavy. So some stuff just isn't reasonable. The other thing is some stuff isn't very scalable. Carbon fiber is amazing. The problem is it's expensive, and there's a lot of manufacturing costs that goes into that. So the autoclave that it takes to make the shapes and, you know, all the things, there's a lot that goes into carbon fiber. So I can understand why folks have a hard time with that. Cast bronze. Yeah. Put strings on the Liberty Bell, bro. That's what you're going to do there. That's right. Have you seen the Donner Hush? It's really weird, but super portable. And decent enough sounding. So Donner has tried to send me stuff. And I'm not super into it. I'm not super into that stuff. Dylan, do you like Evertune? If you have guitar questions, put them in the chat. Put a bunch of question marks in front of them though, because I'm probably missing some because I'm not seeing them. Do you like Evertune bridges? They seem quite trendy over the last 5 years. I don't know how trendy they are. They are neat. And the problem with them is how involved they are to install and how involved they are to set up. I think everybody I know, most people that I know who have them have a guitar tech they can just hand their guitar to somebody and it works. I got a couple of friends that play in bands and they have Evertunes and they love them, but they don't have to mess with them because they just hand them to the guitar tech. So I think that's kind of the problem with them. I think they're cool, but I think I don't know. I don't know about them enough to give you a educated guess or educated answer, but I think they're neat. And I think the engineering is very cool. I don't totally understand how they work, but what I do know is the guys that I know that have them, they don't know how they work either. And they just give them to their guitar tech. So that might be the downside there. Carbon fiber is dirty, dusty to machine. Oh, dude, it is very, very, very dirty. And not just that, it's when you start to make shapes with the stuff, you can't just mill woven carbon fiber. Then it's got to be forged. So it's like shredded into this stuff, and then they forge it and like this. I know about it from the knife world. There's a lot of knife handles that are made out of like forged carbon fiber, but that's also a very heavy, dense material. It can be machined, but again, it's expensive. Forged carbon fibers are really expensive. And then it's also heavy unless you mill it. And then the cost of milling it. So you can't just route it. It has to be milled, more or less, which means you have to have a CNC machine. And you have to have a CNC machine that's set up to do it because, like Dave said, it's very gross to do. I've talked to the guys at McPherson a bunch, because I have a couple of McPhersons. And yeah, if you look at the carbon fiber side of McPherson, it is way messier than the wood side. And they have these rooms that are like sealed off that you can't really go in. You have to like wait till there's nothing going on and then go in there. And it's crazy. Like it's definitely, it's as bad as fiberglass. I think it's worse because the particles are smaller when you grind them. They're actually smaller. Did you make a post or a video about your laser cutter engraver? Is it a diode and how many watts? It is a CO2 laser and it is 80 watts. I am fixing to buy a fiber laser, a 30 watt fiber laser or a 50 watt. I don't know yet. I haven't decided. Let's see. I've got people coming today, so. Let's see. Evertunes seem like Kaylers for fixed bridge people. That is funny. An MDF body. MDF is fine as long as you have it, done right. I mean, I don't know why there should be no reason to build there should be no reason why you couldn't build an MDF body. Old Dan Electros and stuff are Masonite, which is basically MDF with paper on it, more or less. Do you think 3D printing guitars will ever be a thing? So the problem with 3D printing, because I actually have a friend who has a 3D printing shop. In fact, I think he's in the comments today. The problem with 3D printing is the speed to production rate. So if we go back to what folks care about with guitar stuff, it seems like unless you're into really neat stuff, okay? So if you're into neat stuff, you're willing to pay for neat stuff, okay? Cool stuff is cool and cool stuff costs money. End of story. So if you're into cool things and you're willing to pay the money for cool things, then you would think that a 3D printed guitar is cool. You would think a carbon fiber guitar is cool. You would think, because you understand what goes into it. Most folks mistakenly view guitars as a commodity that should be as cheap as possible, that shouldn't cost X amount of dollars like they're entitled to them. A guitar is a luxury item. End of story. So, if you are a person who is concerned about cost and scale and all those things because you think that everybody should be able to have a $200 guitar or everybody should have this guitar that's just as good as that one or whatever, if you're that guy, then you're never going to buy a 3D printed guitar because the scalability and the speed at which they can be made is very, very slow. It can be done, but A, you have to be willing to use the material. B, they are very unique in their look because of where 3D printing technology is right now. It's a thing. Like, you can tell stuff that's 3D printed. And C, the cost of manufacture. And you could say, well, all you have to do is press play and walk away and it does it by itself. Yeah, but it still takes time and it still takes space. So my friend, I think he's in the comments today, he built a building. He had to build a building to put, I don't know however many it is, like 15 or something, 3D printers in there, because they're kind of slow. And so in order to do anything at scale, he has to dedicate so much floor space for each machine. Then each machine can be responsible for X amount of dollars a day. And so now he has to allocate all of that floor space. Flooring costs for equipment is expensive. And so if you've got something that's kind of slow, the next thing you know, a 3D printed guitar is going to be $3,000 and nobody's going to want to pay that for a plastic guitar because they think a plastic guitar should be $200. So that's the problem with 3D printed stuff. I think it's cool, and I think you could make something very, very cool. I think it could be done. But the scalability and the cost of manufacture, along with what the market will bear at this time. But this is exactly what we're talking about. The need for folks to look at this properly to move us ahead in this whole guitar stuff, because I really do think so. Because I think it'd be cool. I would love to have a 3D printed guitar. But I just don't think it'll happen right now. Plastic also breaks down, and I don't know what plastic you're using. I thought it would be faster to 3D print guitars and they would revolutionize cheap guitar building like Leo Fender did. No, it's kind of the opposite. It's honestly, it's like the same thing as having a laser. People think that you can just spit stuff out, but it's not how it works. And in fact, guitars in general. We talked about this last week a little bit. You know, people think that what you can do with a machine is, you know, not, it is, people think you can do more with a certain machine at a greater speed than you can really do. I'll like give you an example. Okay, so let's see. Hang on. Okay, so this pocket knife, this is a ProTech, and I know that it probably can't see it, but there's texture on here. Okay, see the texture? I don't know how long it takes to make one side of this knife. But I know it takes a long time, and I know that that's part of the reason why this knife costs what it costs. And it takes a particular kind of machine to do it. So we've got a flat, it's flat here, and then they put these little serrations into it, right? This knife is a completely different thing. This knife is titanium, and it's actually contoured and textured. This takes a completely different type of machine. The capabilities of the machine are different and much more expensive. As a result, that knife costs twice what that other one costs. And it's not because of the size, it's because of the time that it takes, the hours that it takes to machine something like this. And that's the key. Must be getting packages. Yep, I think we got guitar parts just showed up on the porch. Excellent. Guitar parts are cool. That means we're making stuff and shipping stuff out to you. No neck movement on a non-wood guitar seems... Oh, yeah, dude. So... and it's not just the non-wood part. There are carbon fiber guitars, for example, that move around a lot. My close, because I have two close carbon fiber guitars, and they're great, but they still have truss rods, and they're still, they don't really move around that much, but they can move around. My McPherson's are so stiff that they don't even have truss rod. They're so stiff, they'll never, ever, 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 ever move. Like, they never move. So yeah. Yep. Cool. Anything custom is always going to be at a premium. Yeah, because the scalability of it, when you're only making one, it is definitely a thing. Let's see, what else we got here? Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's fun to talk about. It's just fun to think about the cool stuff that's out there and what we could do, what we could do different, what we might be able to imagine. It's funny because, folks will always ask me, they'll be like, some folks will ask me, they'll be like, hey, you're putting acrylic tops on these pickups. Is that going to change the tone? And I'm like, no, it's not going to change the tone. It'll be fine. But just because you're not used to it, people will just jump to that. And I would say, I want to do a whole podcast on this, so maybe I won't spoil it. But I would say that the majority of the time, guitar playing is not about the tone anyway. There, I said it. The hardest lot size is 1. Dude, that is no joke. That is no joke. Yep. I'll give you an example. I'll tell you one thing. Manufacturing cost difference. So the pick guard that I made for the guitar yesterday with all of the etching in it, that took ten times as long to make as one that did not have etching in it. It's a long time. That thing took almost a half an hour, I think, to make on the laser. And so if you're figuring, $2 a minute, when you have a laser job, like let's say somebody pays me to make stuff on the laser, right? Like let's say they pay me to make, I don't know, hat patches or whatever. It's about $2 a minute. Okay. So if I charge $2 a minute and it takes me a half hour, then that's $60 for the laser time on that pick guard plus the material. So you're looking at $150 for a pick guard by the time you get done. And, people just won't pay that. Like, it's fun, it's cool, but people don't understand what it takes to make those things happen. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of why I want to spend a lot of time on this lately, because I kind of want to, I want to spend some time educating folks, not on what they think stuff should cost. Because like I said, guitar players mistakenly think that a guitar is a commodity, and it's not. It's a luxury item. So you have to think that way when you're looking at guitars. You have to think that way. They're not a commodity. It is not food, right? Nobody needs what we do. Nobody needs it. And you could say, okay, for mental health and whatever, yes, I'll see you there. 100% I'll see you there. But when it comes to survival, it's not a commodity. It is a luxury item. So how much you spend on something should be commensurate with what it is worth to you. Not what it's worth to somebody else, but what it's worth to you. And that should be, you should educate yourself as a consumer as to what that means, right? Instead of just assuming that everything should be Harley Benton price. And you should also educate yourself on why Harley Bentons cost what they cost. Or any guitar. I was just picking on that brand name, but any brand like that. Any Firefly, any of them. Why do you think you can get one of those guitars for what they cost? It's not because more expensive guitars should be cheaper. That is not the reason. You should jump into the internets and do some research about why that is. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. Thanks for hanging out, you guys. I probably will not. I would pay $150 for that pickguard you put on that black telly. You could buy the whole guitar for me because we're gonna sell that here in the next few weeks. That's that. I think we're going to get out of here for the day. I am going to see you on Thursday. Our video schedule is going to be a little lighter for the rest of the week. We will see you on Thursday for the live stream, and then we will see you on Monday for our next video because I am taking some time off. Kind of. Still working. Taking some time off. So, you guys have a good one. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you in the next one.